Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
All right, welcome to the Side Action, episode 11 of season 5. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegs on Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. So, Action, how was your weekend? I mean, you're wearing your Colts gear. I thought you might have got hired for the coaching staff. We'll talk about that in a minute.
It's a new era in Indianapolis as Colts fans, and been rocking this shirt the last couple of days just to show my pride. And maybe we'll get Victor Wembanyama in the draft. I think we could be tanking. Oh, that's the wrong sport. Never mind. I guess we're going after a football player.
Right.
Weekend was good.
He could be good.
Yeah, he probably would be actually. But weekend was good. Despite the Colts loss, I think we all predicted that. We did, obviously, with our pick in the contest. And hanging around town, we got some yard work done. Finally, I think we're ready for the winter season and had dinner with friends on Saturday night. It was a solid weekend. How about you?
Nice. I wasn't out too late on Friday, but I did go out. That was fun. And then Saturday, the most important thing, Shockers champions.
Shocked the world.
2 championships, dude. I can't believe this. This is weird. I don't know what world I'm living in. Somebody wake me up. But I think it was my 19th flag football season in Lincoln Park South Fields to get this victory. We destroyed them. It was, I think, 40-0 or something. It was kind of like, the 49ers against the Rams. We just owned this team for some reason, and it wasn't close. I think they got 1 first down in the game action. We played that well on defense and just got rolled on offense. It was a little windy, didn't matter. And then post-game festivities, baby. We had Rinaldi's. Then we went to, I don't know if you're familiar with River Shannon, which is kind of a local Lincoln Park haunt. And then, Jimmy Zeronis, as you know him, he's been on the team, not as long as me, but probably the second tenured guy. He determined to go out that night. So we were out till like about 5-ish, and he got a hotel. I think he paid like $350 to stay at the hotel Lincoln. I'm like, dude, just crash in my place. No, okay. And we met him out. Me and Ridgeway and a couple other people met him out. But Tommy got out there at like the Easy Bar, which had the dating event years ago at Division. Had a nice evening. Nothing crazy. Probably out until 12:01, but as a solid 12-ish hours of drinking.
Nice.
Jimmy Legs has got to get back in shape. That's what I was saying before the podcast started. I went back to Spartan ways, man, working out, eating good, because, man, that alcohol weight will catch up quick.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I missed all of the celebrations. It sounded like you guys had a good time on Saturday.
Yeah, there's going to be a postseason party. I know you said you may or may not come down. We're going to have a postseason party at Rainmaker's house, Zach Suter, on the 19th. So that's a week from Saturday. So we'll just have a little festivities in the afternoon. Maybe go to a local establishment after that. So, the party continues. I mean, we don't get a Stanley Cup. We get a T-shirt. It's not quite the same. But the most important thing, champs, baby.
And that's the first football championship, right?
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. First softball championship there this year. First football championship.
Nice.
So I think what we need to follow up is the first side action championship in the Circa contest.
I like where your head's at. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Week 9 in the NFL. Was not our championship run, but we've got a round into form here in the last. I guess it's the halfway point technically in the season, right?
Yep.
Let's go over news and notes first. We kind of alluded to this already, that the Colts fired Frank Reich, the head man. He had already fired his offensive coordinator, and instead turned to a capable Gus Bradley who runs the defense. He's still around, or maybe even a John Fox who's a little ancient now. Let's pull a guy out of the ESPN booth who's never coached in the NFL in any capacity, Jeff Saturday.
Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts, Hector.
No brainer. I mean, Jeff Saturday is the man for the job. He obviously played center, so he's a football guy. but I alluded to it at the Open. I think that this is pretty clearly a sabotage by owner Jim Irsay. He's tired of this quarterback carousel, and I think that he's looking for a high draft pick to get a new quarterback in town.
I mean, he did go 3-7 at Hebron Christian in his last high school coaching gig. So
we got that going for us.
Yeah. Well, sorry about that, but you're right. Kind of interesting. We were really high. I was high on the Colts, beginning of the season, and for some reason fell apart. Not really sure. I don't think it was just quarterback play. It just seemed like not as much motivation. A lot of players were injured this year, and you don't know what that's about. But kind of interesting because you think about where we were a year ago. This team was on the rise, looking like first of all, looking like they could win the division and be a really top team in the AFC, and then they kind of sputtered down the stretch. I think they lost the last 2 or 3 games and missed the playoffs, and then this year just, off the rails. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ballard, the GM, has taken a totally different approach by investing in positions that normally you wouldn't see as high value in the NFL, like guards and running backs, et cetera. And that is really coming back to haunt him now because there's no playmakers on the outside, and the quarterback carousel obviously has not worked out the last 2 seasons. So
right, for sure. On the injury front, we kind of had a big one, and we'll see his status, but we have Josh Allen for Buffalo. Kind of on the second to last play, his kind of arm got bent back weird, so he hurt I think it's the UCL or something like that. It's an elbow ligament, the ulnar ligament in his elbow. He's getting evaluated, but he's still listed as questionable. So some people think he's going to play. I think Keenum's going to play, but they're leaving it cloudy whether he's going to be in the game or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've seen the line move appropriately. We touched on here earlier as in the pre-show notes that the line moves have been crazy this week, and this is one of those games due to Josh Allen's questionable status.
For sure. Green Bay is also not, not only did they lose last week, which we may or may not have mentioned here in the coming forward, but they lose players. Rashawn Gary tore his ACL. He's their best pass rusher. He's out for the year now. Romeo Doubs, the ankle for the rookie receiver, is out. It's just a weird year for Green Bay. It's kind of hitting the wall. They've been kind of at the pinnacle, almost there the last few seasons, and it just seems like they're, taking a step back.
Yeah, they look awful offensively, especially. They just can't do anything moving the ball, and it's clear that Aaron Rodgers is not pleased about it.
So then I noted a couple of injuries. Well, one was injury for San Francisco that just happened this week at practice, which kind of sucks. And then one coming back. So Jason Verrett, the cornerback, tore his Achilles. He's out for the year. They were getting guys back, so it's a shame that this guy couldn't stay on the field. And then Elijah Mitchell, the running back, is coming back. I don't know if he's actually going to play this week, but he's off, kind of like the IR to return this week with his MCL injury. So he kind of steps in as Jeff Wilson left from Miami and ready to go for San Francisco.
Yeah, he was electric last year, so I'm excited to see him get back on the field for the Niners.
This one popped up, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford in the concussion protocol. Now, I'm a little confused. Did he get a concussion in the game, or was this in practice?
I read that the injury happened during the game, but he didn't actually start feeling the symptoms until Monday. So kind of a delayed concussion, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, a little suspect. So we've seen that line move too. And then our proxy, we've already had some text with the proxy this week trying to talk him off the ledge. They haven't had a great year to the Raiders, but he's not going to be happy about this. Hunter Renfrow put on IR as well as Darren Waller, so third Renfrow doesn't exist for our proxy.
Yeah, well, I think if there's anything that can cure a football team's woes, it's the Indianapolis Colts coming to town, so they got that going for them.
That's true. Well, let's review some of the picks and games, and it was funny because we didn't do great in the contest, but some of our sides were actually pretty solid if you played the back. We'll start with the win, who we already mentioned already. New England were big winners over the Colts and kind of sent Frank Reich packing. They were 5.5-point favorites in this one at home. They ended up winning 26-3. The game wasn't close. I don't even know if there's much else to say except that your guy Ellinger is not a pro quarterback.
No, not at all. And I'd be curious to hear if the hiring of Jeff Saturday was a commitment to keep Ellinger under center to aid in the tank job because he just can't do anything offensively. I think they had like 1 first down or maybe 0 third down conversions or something like that. And
Right.
3 points on the board. I think that under team total was a lock.
Yeah, I think you said it was like 17, so you
Yeah.
won. Rocking chair. Let's talk about the pushes first. It was a tough one, and this is both in Circa. So Atlanta, Atlanta actually closes a 2.5 point dog at home, I believe, against the Chargers. They were the right side the whole way. Action in the contest, it was 3. We took them. We felt good about that. They were up pretty much the whole game, and then the
Yeah.
Chargers kind of got in. I mean, they ended up getting a win outright, with this weird play where they fumble the ball and then Atlanta recovers it, but then they fumble it right back, and then the Chargers basically get the game-winning field goal. If you took the closing number for us, it was a push in the contest, and the score all week was 20-17. So they win 20-17. The Chargers do. We get the push in the contest, but if you took Atlanta 2.5, you lost.
Yeah, it was a back and forth game, and Austin Eckler and Herbert got a little connection going late to move the
Hmm.
ball, and then the Falcons had a chance with the fumble recovery late, and the defensive lineman was running back. It looked like he was going to score, and then he got stripped, which allowed the Chargers to get back into field goal range at the end and win the game. So that was disappointing for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough one. The other push of no, well, there's another one actually I won't talk about in the Tampa game, but another push of note in the contest was Washington. They were hosting Minnesota. We were all over Washington this game, thinking Minnesota was overrated, and I think we were right. I mean, they were up 17-7 in the fourth quarter, but they did get Minnesota got a field goal on the board to cut it to 7, and then Heineke did have a bad interception that led to the tying score. But more importantly, there was still a chance that Minnesota's driving for the game-winning field goal with about 2 minutes to go. They kicked the field goal, unnecessary roughness, which makes them get basically first and goal, and they can run out the clock and win the game 20-17. Again, a push in the contest for us, and I think that was the closing number around town for the most part, and Minnesota wins miraculously 20-17.
Yeah, tough push for us in this one too. I felt like the Commanders were the right side throughout, and that late interception doomed us.
Yeah, for sure. One game that wasn't on our card, we discussed it quite a bit, was the Jags. The Jags were 2.5 point favorites in the contest. I think it closed, was it 1.5 closing, something like that, where the Raiders came into town and were favored. And at first I thought, man, I'm glad we stepped away from this game because we were going to take the Jags. Raiders go up 17-0. They're moving the ball at will on the Jacksonville, and then somehow, I don't know what to say. Their defense stopped playing. The offense just stone cold stopped. They end up losing the game outright. The Raiders do 27-20. So it's an easy cover for the Jags. And this is the third time in the season that the Raiders have blown a 17-point lead or more. It ties an NFL record. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad defense, huh? 32nd ranked in DVOA now, and they just didn't show up in the second half. They let the Jags back into the game. Very disappointing loss.
Yeah, on our card, we did have a loss here when we had a couple losses, but this one, hurt. Buffalo. I don't know. Maybe I should have stuck to the index pick. It was all over the Jets, but Buffalo was a 12.5 point favorite in the contest. This line got all the way down to 10.5. So maybe you saw that money pouring on the Jets. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to figure out, but the Jets were able to keep the game close. They were able to run the ball a little bit against the Bills defense, which has been pretty good. And more importantly, the Bills don't have a running game anymore. It's really weird. All they've got is Josh Allen running the ball. They were leading in this game, but then end up, basically down and having to score and give themselves a chance and give it to the Jets. And I mean, obviously Wilson wasn't great, but they win the game. Let's not hear the score before action. 20-17 over the Bills.
Yeah, 20-17 score lines in that opening window on Sunday. That's pretty remarkable. I mean, yeah, you got to give the Jets defense some credit. I think that was one question mark that we had handicapping this game. If they showed up, they were going to be in it, and they certainly did in spades. The turnovers by Josh Allen certainly didn't help, but you got to say that the Jets forced them into those turnovers.
And I believe you already had this ticket, but I think the Jets just hit their win total for the
Yeah,
year, right? Wasn't it 5.5?
yeah,
So
first team to
you
cash.
get 6-3. There you go, cashing tickets. A couple games we weren't on, but Green Bay went to Detroit. You were on this pick when on the podcast. Green Bay was a 5.5 point favorite on the road against the Lions. I don't know. I mean, at some point, I just thought Green Bay was going to get right, and I guess we just can't have that vision, or I can't have that vision. Green Bay was terrible. Rodgers had 3 turnovers inside the 20, 3 interceptions, and I don't know if he was just nonchalant about it or maybe his thumb was bothering him, but in the end, the Lions, in a crazy score, win 15-9. I mean, Underville, and more importantly, as we discussed, Green Bay they're way down in the division, and they're probably more. I don't even know if they're odds to make the playoffs. They're probably much longer than we thought.
Yeah, they've got to be now 3-6. And this scoreline, in terms of the Lions' defense holding down that Green Bay Packers offense, is certainly very surprising. But when you look at it again, I mean, the Packers' offense has been underwhelming the last several weeks, and so maybe
Yes.
it isn't all that surprising that they couldn't put up points against that Lions D.
Right, for sure. This one I had to put on here mainly for Justin Fields, but the Bears faced. I actually got to watch the game with some friends, just at somebody's house with some other people. Went to the game. The Bears hosted the Dolphins. We said this was going to be an over game, and oh boy, it was action.
Yeah.
The Bears closed as a 4 point dog in this one, and I like that too because apparently Justin Fields is, I don't know, he's like the second coming of Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson or something. He rushed for 178 yards, breaking the single game rushing record. In this one, the Bears end up losing again, but they still put up 32 points. They lose 35-32. I do think Miami had their chances to cover this game, but in the end, 67 points on a 46 total. You've got to, as you said last week, the Bears are an overbet.
Yeah. And that single game rushing record, is that for the Bears or national NFL quarterbacks?
NFL.
Wow.
For a quarterback.
Wow.
Quarterback.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I'm surprised that Vic or one of those guys didn't put up those kind of numbers before.
He broke Vic's record. I think Vic's record must have been 175, 177, something like that.
Cool. Yeah, awesome game to watch. Certainly much more exciting than the Patriots Colts on the Red Zone channel.
Yeah, no kidding. They were always, and the thing I will say that, and I'm not even talking about Miami. I mean, Tua, I think he had the first half he did have an incompletion. I mean, it was just a joke. The Bears defense so bad right now.
Yeah.
It's just everybody's running open. So we'll talk a little bit about that handicap.
Definitely
Detroit.
an all the time over team, no doubt about it.
Exactly. So now you got the Chiefs. We had the Chiefs on our card. They were 11.5 point favorites at home against the Titans. You had Malik Willis starting for the Titans. Doesn't matter. Mike Vrabel's a great coach, and this kind of defies the Andy Reid off the bye angle that we talked about last week. In this one, I mean, Tennessee was whooping them. I mean, it was 17-10 or something, maybe even worse at one point, or 17-9, I think. It was just a weird game. Kansas City goes down, scores the first 2 trips down the field, and then they just stopped. And Tennessee's defense has to give them some credit here. But guess what the score of this one was, action, as Kansas City wins the game.
20-17.
20-17, right? So it was just a weird week where everybody's scoring the same thing. But what do you think happened in this game? It just was, Vrabel's defense and the will to win. I mean, Henry had a great game, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, Henry was great. I think the Titans' game plan to come right out of the box and throw on them on that first drive just completely caught the Chiefs off guard. I think the first play from scrimmage was a 40-yard completion that Willis threw, which was probably like one of his 4 completions in the box score, if I remember correctly. 5, excuse me. So, I mean, and then after that, they got Henry going a little bit, and they got those 2 touchdowns, and that kind of set the tone for the game. And then defensively, they were really keeping the Chiefs in check. I think that was probably the most surprising and eye-popping thing in the game, is that the Titans were able to shut down the Chiefs offensively so well.
And I think Kansas City missed a couple field goals. I mean, Bucker was hurt early in the year. Maybe he's not 100%. He used to be automatic, so keep that in mind. But yeah, they don't cover that 11.5, and
I mean,
end up doing something not so great.
The box score just defies logic. 1 for 11 on third down. The yards per play net was negative -0.7 again for the Titans, just right in line with their season-long metrics. It's just like inexplicable that the Chiefs didn't cover this game and looking at the box score.
And that's the MO for the Titans all year. It doesn't make sense. The metrics don't help us here. You just gotta, I don't know, it's weird.
Yep.
So overall, this week, I mean, the Dogs actually did win this week for once. It was 5-6, and get this, 2, at least the way I graded them. So favorites were 6-5 and 2. So you have those 2 pushes, which is weird. Tons of unders this week though, 9 and 4, dominating. And I'm sure you have numbers for the season, so you know unders are dominating for the year. But this is the week, man. It jumped back up. 5 of the 13 games, you know, the favorites that did win did not cover because of these pushes and stuff. So it was a really unique week. That's actually the second week we've had this year with 5 games, so it bumps it back up over 16.4%.
Yeah, and you had all those games falling on the 3, which I think was very damaging to the books, because in those cases, a lot of times they toggle back between 2.5 and 3, and of course you got tons of guys on one side laying the 2.5, and then a ton of them taking 3 on the dog side, and when it lands 3, that's bad news for the books.
Right. And I mean, I do think they probably did okay with the teasers because certain teams like the Bills and Packers and Chiefs didn't really get there, right? So, but anyway, and me included, I finally played a teaser. Like, I'm going to go back to my old ways. The teasers, loser, you know.
Yeah. I've kind of written off teasers here the last couple of weeks. The long standard teasers have not fared well this season.
Right. Okay, let's jump into Week 10 action. We've got 4 teams on bye: the Bengals, Jets, Patriots, and Ravens. I noted they were all winners last week. Going to those byes, those teams play a little better. So let's go into this week. We've got the game that's happening momentarily. You got the Falcons against the Panthers. Kind of a who cares game, but the the Falcons are still in the mix for the division. They're still leading the division, I believe, even though it's crazy weird the way that division works out. Atlanta open as a 3-point favorite on the road, 43-point total. It's really 2.5 now in the contest with the Falcons at 42.5. It's a little late, but if people are listening, probably in like an hour. Any angles for this game that you were looking at?
Not really. I mean, the Panthers obviously let that victory slip through their fingers with the DJ Moore penalty last time out in Atlanta, and so they certainly have some revenge on their mind. But I'm staying away from this game. I played a little bit on the under, just looking at that weather that was coming in, the tropical storm hitting and probably providing some rain there in Carolina tonight, but that's all I got.
Yeah, and last week, Carolina just laid a dud. PJ Walker was awful against Cincinnati.
No doubt.
Sorry, I didn't go into Cincinnati pick last week, actually.
No worry.
Let's go. We've got a game in Munich, Germany this week. Kind of unique. I don't think they've been in Germany since, I don't know, the Frankfurt, whatever they were in the World Football League or whatever the hell. So Seattle and Tampa go to Munich. Interesting line here. Tampa's open as a 2-point favorite. They're 3 points in the contest. 44-point total opener to 44.5. I don't know. You got to explain this to me, man. Tampa is not their team on paper, and I know that Seattle has been the glorious underdog all season, but they're playing well. Do you think that there's some validity to Tampa being not just a favorite? I mean, they're laying the full 3. I'm a little confused by it. I could see maybe a 1 or something like that, but what are your numbers telling me?
Yeah, I mean, my power ratings make Seattle very short favorite, -0.5 point on neutral, which this is in Munich. And it's tough because I believe that there may be a little bit of like a bias here to Tampa Bay and maybe play a little conspiracy theory here, but this is like a standalone game, first time in Germany. Sure. And I think that bettors are probably having a gut feel that the NFL is going to prefer to see Tom Brady win this game for the numbers. So that kind of gives me some hesitation. I would never suggest that the league would do anything like that, but I think that when it comes down to it, the stripes are going to shade to Tampa Bay on Sunday because they want the Bucs and Tom Brady to show well in Munich.
Yeah, you're probably right. I do think a couple things we talk about in some of these games. Seattle, from what I understand, left directly from Arizona, go straight to Munich. So they've been there for almost all week. So they're going to adjust pretty quickly, or at least have the time change differences. I don't know. I mean, we don't have to put in a contest, but it's definitely an index pick that Seattle's the pick here. Like you said, it's value to Seattle in this one, at least 3 points, 3.5 or so. So
I think we can. Well, let's color it yellow. I mean, I'm right there with you. I agree that Seattle, especially the way that Geno Smith has been playing lately, should be capable of moving the ball against this defense. And then you still have a Tampa Bay offense that has not been playing well recently. So
yeah, and on the flip, Seattle's defense is going up the metrics. The young defense is
yeah,
playing better every week. They
no
really,
doubt.
got after Kyler Murray last week. You got to figure they're going to get after Tom Brady, and he's a statue.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're not running the ball. I think they're supposed to turn to Rashad White more than Leonard Fournette in this one. Maybe an electric game and surprises people, but we'll see. The young back, Kenneth Walker's been really great for Seattle.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, here's an interesting one, another one to debate. Denver comes off their bye. They're playing the Titans. As we discussed, the Titans are red hot. They can't lose despite the metrics. They lost last week anyway, but I mean, it was right in the game. So Tennessee opened as a 3-point favorite at home. Now they're 2.5 in the contest. The total went from 38 to 36.5. I don't know, action. It's tough. I don't like the Broncos. We've talked all season how their coach sucks and Wilson, whatever. They did play a little better in London. Coming off a bye, they're the better team in the metrics. I don't know. It's hard for me to not take the points in this one, but then you're going against Vrabel in the game.
I know it's tough right now. It seems because I, like you, want to line up and bet against Tennessee again, just looking at their numbers. But we touched on it in the recap from last week. This team just seems to have the luck and game planning on their side, and I really do think it comes down to Vrabel in a lot of cases too, because much like his mentor Bill Belichick,
Right.
he knows what his team is capable of, and they have a game plan every week that he knows is going to keep them in the game.
Right.
They're never going to go out and shoot their load and get crushed.
Do we know if Tannehill's playing this week, or is it going to be Malik?
When he first got hurt, I think it was pretty well suggested that it was going to be a 4 to 6 week injury.
Okay.
And so I think this is week 3 now, or maybe like 3.5 weeks since the injury. So I would be surprised to see him out there. But, the market suggested last week that there was some chance that Tannehill could play, because when he got announced out, you saw it move like an additional 2 points up to 14.
Right.
So if he almost played last week, you have to figure that he's closer this week.
Now, for the Denver backers, how much do you think of a downgrade the defense gets with Chubb being on Miami now?
It's a good question. Probably, you have to assign at least half a point to losing him. I don't know that a defensive end could be a full point in terms of value. But you do got to figure that it's going to take a little bit of morale out of the defense too. So they are coming off the bye, though.
Yeah.
Recall they played in London 2 weeks ago, so they definitely have a rest advantage here. Defensively, I think they're still going to be able. I mean, it's Tennessee's offense, so not much competition there. I like the under in this game. If anything, I did bet under 39.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a hard time for these two offenses to score.
Okay, so just stay away on the side, but take the under.
I think so, yeah. I mean, you could have had me interested at 3 with the Broncos, but 2.5 is tough.
I know this is a bad game to do it, but I would like the teaser here, action. Tease the Broncos up, right? A tease
For
the
sure.
total up and go under. I mean, this is what you should do, but anyway, I'm sure they'll lose, 17-0 or something like that. All right, let's go with another interesting game. The Vikings going to Buffalo. Buffalo opened as a 7.5 point favorite. Obviously, that's with Josh Allen in tow. 46-point total. It's down to 3.5 in the contest. 43.5 point total. So this is really interesting action. I mean, when you look at this, the market is 3.5 right now. Of course, it's assuming basically that Josh Allen's missing the game, right? I mean, so there are no concrete reports he's going to play or not. Keenum's, he's a pro quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, but is this too far of a move? I mean, four points? I mean, this is supposed to be a good football team.
Yeah, And I mean, you got to figure if Keenum's under center, they're going to look to run the ball a little bit more. They got a new toy in the backfield, Naheem Hines.
Yeah.
Keenum probably is going to look to dump off some short passes to him and the other backs in the backfield. So you may not necessarily have the same offensive capabilities, but I think they're still a great offense.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, the Bills defense, I think, is going to have an edge against that Vikings attack similarly. So I would consider the Buffalo Bills here. You probably get a nice discount here when you look at that. I'm kind of with you that I don't think Allen to Keenum is that much of a downgrade specific to this opponent.
Right. Well, I look at it this way. The Bills, just kind of bigger picture. The Bills, got beat by the Jets. I mean, it was a tough game. It was a physical game. They obviously have to come home and lick their wounds. They're going to want to bounce back. I don't care who's a quarterback. That defense is going to play better. And the Vikings, they've been living dangerously, man. They've been coming back in the fourth quarter every single week when they're 7-1. But I don't know. I just think that there's a coaching advantage, and I think ultimately a talent advantage besides the quarterback being out. I'd be on the Bills, man. I mean, it's 3.5. I just think it's value, like you said.
Yeah, I like that too, and I'm also very keen on going against the Vikings as much as possible too, because I think they're overrated.
And then obviously, I mean, in some ways I kind of want Allen to just get healthy and whatever, but if he does play, assuming he can actually play, then this is a really sweetheart play for us. I mean, then the line goes back up and we've got a great number. So
I do think, though, one way or another, we'll get some news on his status prior to Saturday, so we'll be able to pivot one way or another. But the problem is, if he is ruled in, obviously everyone's going to take the Bills.
Yeah, I know. So. Okay, so Browns going to the Dolphins. Dolphins open as a 3.5-point favorite, 49-point total. It's really the same, 3.5 right now, 48.5-point total. The Browns coming off their bye. Obviously, they destroyed the Bengals before the bye. They went to their bye strong. Interesting line action. The Dolphins, they were unimpressed against the Bears. Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
All these additions and everything. Maybe it just takes some time. Tua has played well. You can tell me how good the Browns secondary is, because obviously Tyreek Hill's leading. I forgot to say he's like the fastest receiver to 1,000 yards or 1,100 yards in NFL history. But it's got to be value on the Browns here, right? I mean, 3.5. They can run the ball. The Dolphins just gave up tons of to a team. I like the Browns here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the look ahead on this game was like 5.5, I think, preseason, and then last week, and now coming into week 10 here, you're seeing it open at 3.5 and basically stuck there all week. So I'm kind of wondering what changed to move this number 2 points.
Right.
Was it the somewhat poor display non-cover against the Bears last week? Perhaps. I mean, the Bears did run all over them, and despite the DVOA metrics suggesting that Miami's run defense is 7th ranked, that gives me some hesitation going up against the number 2 ranked rushing attack of the Browns.
Right.
Do you think that the Browns defense is going to be able to stop this prolific pass offense, though?
Well, I think and I don't know, the Browns have been very inconsistent this year. If the pass rush gets after him, I think that Tua, he's not mobile and, obviously doesn't have a big arm. You see it every week. He throws up those long bombs that are short, and he gets either pass interferences or great plays by his receivers. I don't think he's all that great. Now, granted, they're going to be playing in Miami, which is a home field advantage because of the heat and all that kind of stuff. But, 3.5, just the back door's wide open there. Here's a question for you. I mean, it's not something that's going to be solved today, but I'm pretty sure that, Deshaun Watson's coming back next week, isn't he?
That's a good question. Was it 10-week suspension?
Something like that. I think that he has to be, because they have the bye, I think it's a 10-game suspension. So I think he has to sit this game out. Maybe it's week 12. I was thinking that maybe they, get all fired up because he's coming back and, just kind of a narrative explanation. But at some point, and I think that Brissett's been okay. They're in the mix, but they will turn to Watson. And I mean, it's kind of an important game in the AFC is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, definitely a big game between these two teams. I don't know. It's tough for me because I really like the Dolphins and I like betting on them. 3.5 is a tough number, though. I certainly would rather lay 3,
Well,
obviously.
let's stay away in the contest. Make it simple. We
Okay.
can talk about your great pick next week when the Dolphins win big. Right? All right, the Bears are hosting the Lions. Bears open as a 2.5 point favorite up to 3. Total went from 49 to 48.5. We know where you are on the total. That's simple. Interesting that the Bears, it extended to 3. I mean, are they that great? They're good on offense. Their defense sucks. So I'm pretty sure I know where you're going with this one, but I don't know if I can back the Lions, dude. And I know you love the Lions. You got your Lions shirt under your Colts right now.
Yeah, right.
And the 2.5, I was all over the Bears. I'm like, this is perfect. Take the Bears. But I can't take the Bears.
I think this number is actually perfect. I've got Chicago -1 on a neutral.
Right.
But I don't think the Bears should be laying points really to anyone. I think that number, when you see a 3 up there, just kind of jumps out at you because the Chicago team is not one that should be laying.
No,
So.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I think it's everybody, the field's adventure, but so I'm happy to stay away. I just can't really get on board with the Lions either.
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, look, the offense is going to move the ball, but Jared Goff isn't great in any kind of weather under like 45 degrees. I think it's supposed to be 40, right?
True. Yeah. There is a Goff outside factor in this one. But I'm with you. I think it's a pass.
Slippery hands.
Let's pass.
Okay. All right, here we go. Saints at the Steelers. Saints open as a 3-point favorite, 42-point total, and it's at a 1.5 in the contest, 40-point total. So what happened in this line? I didn't really get to pick up why this happened. I was on the Saints early, and I'm like 1.5. Something happened here. So is there an injury I need to know about?
I think it's mostly due to TJ Watt coming back into the lineup.
There you go.
Probably the best defensive player in the league, and if you're talking about any defensive lineman worth a point or more, it's got to be him.
Okay.
So I suspect that is the reason for this move down to 1.5, because I mean we saw it in Week 1. He actually personally wreaked havoc on the Bengals and Joe Burrow, and I think he's definitely capable of doing that against Andy Dalton.
Okay, there you go. So are you on the Steelers now?
I like the Steelers. Yeah, I think a home underdog here, 1.5 points, and I really do think that TJ Watt is that much of a game changer, and so I think him alone shows some value on the Steelers.
I gotta agree with you then. I didn't know it was TJ, and that's great for him because I do like him as a player. He's a huge difference maker. I've not been impressed with Dalton. Obviously they got, I don't know, the game wasn't even close on Monday night. We thought that maybe the Saints at home angle, forget that. Their defense was unimpressive too. Mm-hmm. So the Steelers with the bye week should be a little bit better on offense and more importantly, better on defense. Let's do it, Steelers.
I like it.
Okay, here we go. The Texans going to the Giants. Giants open as a 6.5-point favorite at home, 38-point total. Another one down to 4.5 in this one with a 41-point total. So went up on the total but down in the spread. What's the news? 2 points there, a pretty big movement. I mean, is Daniel Jones not playing? Is Saquon Barkley not playing? I mean, what's going on?
I'm not aware of any news in this game. I think it's just, I mean, I read that Adam Chernoff gave out this pick, Houston, the other day, and then I don't know if he's getting his information from other groups or what, but like within 10 minutes, this line went from 6.5 to 4.5 on Wednesday morning. So
that is really weird. I don't. The Giants off the bye. Dable's clearly, I mean, well, obviously had a decent year against the spread, I guess. But I've got to think that Dable's got his troops ready to go. They can make the playoffs here. I mean, they're going to win this football game. So maybe it's just too big of a number.
I think that's it. It's just a matter of the Giants laying almost a touchdown now. Well, earlier, almost a touchdown, whereas they haven't been this big of a favorite in probably 2 seasons plus. So, I mean, you're getting almost a touchdown here. It's pretty low total.
I mean, how many yards is Saquon Barkley going to have? 250? I mean, he's going to break the all-time single-game record here.
Yeah, the Texans' run defense is last. So, and I also heard that Dameon Pierce, the rookie running back for the Texans, is questionable too. So you have a downgrade there. Maybe we do look at the Giants here. I mean, this is a number it's certainly not 6.5 anymore. 4.5 is a little more palatable.
I think we consider it. Especially if Chernoff, and I'm not saying Chernoff doesn't know what he's doing. I'm sure she's making money more than me.
Yeah.
So, but I'm curious why. I have to listen. I probably should go was on Follow the Money on Monday or something or Tuesday.
I'm not sure. I have not found time for Follow the Money recently,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I usually listen to those guys, so I didn't listen. He usually does come on. Maybe I'll try to listen to him tomorrow when I'm off and do
yeah,
some research.
I think he comes on Thursdays this year, so
Is
came
it?
in this morning.
Okay, we'll figure it out. But especially if it's contrarian, we need that
Yeah.
here. All right, the last of the 4 o'clock window, we got the Jags against the Chiefs. So this is, at the Chiefs. They didn't play great on, on Sunday. So let's see if they can bounce back. But they open up as a 9.5 point favorite at home, 50-point total. It's up to 50.5 for the total, but the spread is the same. I don't know, dude. The Jags are such a weird team. They played so good early in the year. They obviously ran into a crappy team last week and came back. The Chiefs, the idea here is the Chiefs are going to come for blood and destroy this team, but
Hmm.
this number's too big for me to back the Chiefs, bro. The metrics don't say that it's a good number, so I'm happy to pass. I don't know. I'm not going to advocate 100% for the Jags, but it's definitely a big number for Casey.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's right on. I make it 7.5, add 2 for home, gets you to 9.5 right away. So I think the number is spot on, and am hesitant to go after and back these big favorites again. We got burned twice last weekend, and the week before, one of them dropped to cover as well. So on the other side, I'm not sure that I could get behind Jacksonville either. Maybe play it another wait and see what happens if Jacksonville continues playing well. They could compete for that division title.
It's interesting. This is where DVOA and my metrics are different. I mean, I do have this kind of like a 4 or 5 point game. It's even
Really?
on the yeah. It's not that the Jags are great. It's just the Chiefs, especially the last couple of weeks, they're not holding numbers. They're not scoring the last couple
Yeah.
of weeks, which is weird.
Hmm.
But we'll see. Let's stay away. Happy to stay away.
Okay.
All right, here we go. This is you against the proxy, the Colts against the Raiders in the 4 o'clock window. Raiders open as a robust 6 point favorite at home, 42-point total. They're up to 6.5 now, 42.5 point total. No Renfro, no Waller. Does it matter? I mean, the Colts can't score, so it's really how many points are the Raiders going to score. I'm happy to stay away from this garbage game, but what's your take on this one?
Oh man, I don't know. I laid 4.5 with the Raiders
Okay.
right on open on Sunday. So I took that position just knowing that the number was that was even before coaching change. I just kind of figured that number was going to be going up towards the touchdown, and it certainly did. Do you think that the Colts are going to get the proverbial dead cat bounce here with Saturday under under the helm, or I have a feeling that this could go completely the opposite direction because now you got this guy coming out of ESPN who's supposed to be in charge. Do you think the other coaches are going to be like happy to work for this guy?
Well,
I
they've
don't think
got
so.
some guy. He's a 30-year-old dude calling plays. He's never called plays in the
Yeah,
NFL either. Now the
I saw
Raiders aren't
that.
a very good defensive team, so let's start
Hmm.
there. But I don't know, man. The question really is more the other side of it. Do the Raiders are they tanking or what are they doing? They put these guys on IR. Are they giving up on the season? I heard McDaniels is kind of like firing a bunch of guys. He's clearing house, cutting players. So has he lost his locker room? Right. That's the real question. Because I do think the Colts will play a little bit better than they did certainly last week because they're playing for their job sort of now. But the
Hmm.
Raiders, I don't know, man. Maybe they haven't hit their bottom yet. I just think it's a
Yeah, that's
it's a
true.
it's a plutonium charge. We just got to stay as far away from this game as possible.
I think so too.
Proxy.
Yeah, it's super interesting because it's like uh, terrible offense versus terrible
Mhm.
defense, and then on the other side, the Colts have a pretty good
Right.
defense and against a pretty good Raiders
Right.
offense. So it's really interesting. But I agree. I think it's a
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah. Okay, in the 4 o'clock, we got the Cowboys going to the Packers. Cowboys coming off the bye. Dak should be 100% healthy now. They open as a 4 point favorite on the road at the Packers, 43-point total. It's up to 4.5 in the contest with the same total, 43. Oh man, every week it's the same stupid thing, man. I think Green Bay is going to do it, right? This is a bad spot for the Cowboys. They're going into Lambeau. Packers always used to cover there. At some point, they're not going to keep losing games. They've lost, 5 in a row now, the Packers. But Green Bay's, Dallas is the better team. They're just a better football team, and they're going to be full rest. I don't know if they're going to get Zeke back, but I don't think they need it with Pollard. And their defense, Green Bay defense, can't stop the run. So it seems like it's a Dallas or pass here, but talk me into the Green Bay Packers.
No, I want no part of the Packers right now. I love the Cowboys in this game. I think despite Zeke's potential absence, Tony Pollard is probably an upgrade at that position, and their ability to run the ball combined with the Packers' really porous run defense, I think, is a recipe for disaster. And I think that the Packers are going to give up gobs and gobs of yards to that Cowboys run game, and they're going to be able to control the clock and take this cover home pretty easily.
Okay, let's do it. Let's just, follow the index, man. Good pick.
Index likes the Cowboys.
Yeah, they're better. Let's just see what the index says in terms. It's about right. The line, I think I've got them at a 5-point favorite at Lambeau, so right there. But
okay, all right.
Still solid. It's not like it's value to Green Bay. Okay, Here we go. Cardinals to the Rams. Rams open as a 3-point favorite, 43-point total. It's 1.5 in the contest for the Rams. I guess this is with Stafford being out with a 41.5-point total. Let me ask you this, as I should know this. Who's the backup for the Rams?
Oh, that is a good question.
It's not Sean Mannion now. Who the hell they got? Blake Bortles retired, didn't he? Here we go.
I want to say Strebler.
It's a live radio show, everybody. I can find it in a second. Depth chart. Here we go, and the verdict is John Wolford. Oh, that's right. He started last year, didn't he?
Okay. Yeah.
John Wolford with Bryce Perkins behind that. Okay, I'm going to start by saying this. It's happened many weeks. Arizona is always a sweetheart for the damn index. I don't know why. They are better than the Rams in the index. So getting points means you should pick them. But how many times has this team covered for us? 0? We have picked them at least 4 times this year, and they have not. I don't think they've covered a single one for us. So that's, you shouldn't make that fallacy. Go to the next week, right? But what do you think here?
I don't know. The Rams have Cliff Kingsbury's number. McVay has Kingsbury's number too. I'm just looking at the head-to-head game log the last 3 seasons. I think the Cardinals covered once out of the last 8 games. And so there's clearly some sort of matchup advantage that they have. But, this is a different Rams team this year. They are clearly not the same offensively and have been unable to protect Stafford. And I don't think that Wolford is going to be any more mobile, or the offensive line is going to play any better with him under center. So maybe there is value.
There is value in the cards. There's value in the under. Sounding what you're saying. Can the Rams? You have the metrics. How is the Rams pass rush? Because that's the key. Can you keep? The bottom line is, if you keep Murray in the pocket, he's garbage, right? He doesn't even make plays from the pocket.
Yeah.
He's got to make plays out of the pocket. Yeah. So, obviously, assuming, Donald's healthy and all that stuff, how are they doing? They haven't played great. They didn't really get after Tom Brady last week. It was a good game. It was a low-scoring game. But, that's what I saw last week. Seattle just bedeviled the Cardinals. Actually, in both matchups.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Yeah, they kept Murray in check. They didn't let him get out and scramble. The 20th ranked Rams sack defense.
Not great.
And the Cardinals' offensive line is middle of the pack too, 17th in protection.
Right. Well, we don't have a lot of picks this week. Actually, we're running out of games. No. So I guess we have to at least consider Arizona in this one, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Put a little yellow or a very light red or something on them.
Puke brown.
Right, like the Browns brown. Okay, so 2 more games. The Sunday night game, we got the Chargers against the 49ers. 49ers opened as a 7-point favorite, 47-point total. Still at 7 in the contest as the favorite at home, 45.5-point total. You know I love the 49ers. They're getting healthy, blah, blah, blah. It's too many points, dude. It's too many points. This game should be like
Yeah.
5, 4.5, 5. What's going on? I know the Chargers are banged up, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's just the injuries are mounting everywhere. I mean, they missed Keenan Allen last
Yeah.
week, and their receiving Mike Williams was out, like we talked about, and they just haven't really been scoring much. I mean, the scoring is down, and defensively, I don't think they're playing as well as they're capable of either. So that's the reason for this additional inflation,
Right.
I would say, because I, like you, make it 4.5 on a neutral, and now we're talking a full
Yep.
touchdown. So, um, middle of the road total. I would like it more with a lower total, to be honest. But 45.5 is kind of average, I'd say. Probably high for this
Right.
year. And it's tough for me. I don't know that I want to take 7 with the
I
Chargers.
don't. It's a bad number too. I mean, you'd think they would go 7.5 or 6.5.
Yeah,
Opening the
true.
door for another push. I don't want one of those. I've had three of those this year, actually. Um, yeah, I'm happy to stay away. It's interesting. I mean, the 49ers have to win. I mean, what's going to happen to this game is, let's say Seattle goes to Germany and wins, and they see this, and they'll be 7-3. I mean, that's the only thing in Seattle. Exceeding expectations, right? 6-3, already shattered their win total. 49ers keep winning. So I see the motivation angle, but yeah, it's tough. 7's a big number.
Yeah, definitely.
How about Monday night? We got the Commanders against the Eagles. Eagles are open as 11-point favorites at home, 44.5-point total to start, and now it's 44. So another low-scoring game, high-spread game. Eagles have been dominant this year. Do you have the numbers? How have they covered? They have been covered every game, but what are they like? So what are they? 8-0? Be like 6-2
I
or 5-3?
I feel like last week's loss was the
Oh, really?
first ATS. They are, you're right, five
Yeah,
and
I
three
think they
though.
didn't cover
Yeah,
against the Lions in week 1 and all that stuff. I
that's
mean,
right.
I remember
Yep.
that.
Arizona on the
Right,
road
that's
against
right. It
Arizona
was
as
a
well.
tight game. So this is, divisional road dog, 11 points. I mean, I'm more concerned, I guess. What's the Commanders' run defense?
Commanders defensively 15th
Okay,
ranked against. Oh no, sorry, number 2
right.
against the run.
Yeah, I can only look to the Commanders here. I know it sounds crazy to go against the Eagles, but I even though the Eagles are really great in the index, they're number 1 in the index, by the way. They surpassed the Bills finally. But
Yep.
the Commanders are playing pretty good defense. They shut down a pretty good offense in Minnesota last week. And you got to figure they're going to get some run fits this one and slow them down. I'm not saying they're going to beat them, but 11 points is a lot of points.
hmm My only concern on that side is the potential for the Eagles pass rush to
Mm,
just be in Heineke's face all
sure.
night. Remember in the first matchup versus these two teams, Carson Wentz could barely get a pass off because he was having under so much
Right.
pressure. Do you feel like that Heineke is more well equipped to get the ball out sooner and may not necessarily take the sacks that Wentz
I
does?
think he's also more mobile. I think Wentz is, when he was younger, he was a lot more mobile and he also could take hits. I think Heineke is just slippery. He's a little bit undersized and he's kind of quick. So I think he just kind of gets away from pass rushers quite a bit. He does make gunslinger plays, which he's subject to pick sixes. I mean, the pick last week,
Yeah.
if you think about it, it was a huge pick for them. I mean, if they don't throw the pick, they probably win that game. They're whatever 5-3 or whatever they are. Instead of 4-4. I
hmm
mean, they're still in the mix for the playoffs, but that was a big mistake, especially with an NFC opponent. I'm happy to stay away too. I'm just saying I don't know if I could get on board with the Eagles with the 11. I don't think I could.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that a point spread tax has finally caught up to the Eagles, and I think we're at the point in the season where the number is getting to a level that there's value in opponents.
Mhm.
So I'm with you. I think that we should consider Washington at the inflated price of
Yeah, the
11.
Commanders. I mean, you putting together some investors still? Is RG3
No,
get contacted you yet?
not yet. Still waiting on that.
Man, I really thought this week, either Jeff Saturday or RG3 would call you. All right, well, let's review our picks from this week that we've discussed and we like anyway. We're trying to figure out Seattle in Munich +3 against Tampa. We'll see if that's just if it's rigged. Like I heard Action say it's rigged. He said the NFL is rigged. That's what
I said a bias.
The Bills laying 3.5 at home. We've been with Keenum at quarterback because it's a little too much of a tax with Josh Allen out against the Vikings. The Steelers getting 1.5 at home with TJ Watt back against the Saints. The Giants laying 4.5 at home against the Texans. Dallas laying 4.5 on the road against Green Bay. We're considering Arizona getting 1.5 against the Rams. And then lastly, the Commanders getting 11 on the road at the Eagles. So we got a good cross section there.
Yeah, I think we can find 5 out of those.
Yeah, we'll narrow it down. We won't be distracted at the bar and coming off victories for the just volleyball victories now. Action.
Yeah, there
all
you
season, go. Indoor sand. Well, let's review the Circa Million. We went 1-2-2 last week. That's a really weird record. Action. We've never done that before. No. For those scoring at home, that's basically like 2-3 effectively. So it gets us to 22-20-3, a really interesting record. Overall, it's like 52%. Not terrible or top 2,000, not fantastic, but we can still be in the mix. We're only like 5-6 back of the money. The money is at 65.6% at 29-15-1. And the top guy actually had a pretty bad week. He was 1-3-1 actually. So 33-11-1 on the season at 74%. He was at 80% last week. So it's not like we're going to overtake him tomorrow, but you can see that everybody struggled last week is kind of the moral of the story here. So we're entering our third quarter. It's a 4-week quarter. Let's do this, Action.
Big quarter. I think that we need to make a run right here this week, get us back on track.
That's right. I will say, and we haven't talked about this much this season, we've been like first quarter I thought we did great. Second quarter was So the guy who won the crap quarter, whatever they call it, the bottom guy, he started out of the box at like 0-15 or something in the first 3 weeks.
Wow.
But
that's
if
crazy.
we probably won't have that bad of a quarter. But if we start off bad, we should go for the bottom.
Nah.
No, okay. All right, man. Well, what are you doing this weekend? Anything fun?
No, not really. Taking the boat up to storage. That's the only thing on my agenda.
That's sad. It's a sad day.
I know, right? It sure is.
Where do you store it again?
Just a county fairground in a barn.
You kind of just
Next county up.
wrap it up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it keeps it out of the elements.
Nice. I'm gonna see, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, of course. That's coming out. I'm gonna check it out tomorrow. Got the day off. Gonna start my indoor volleyball sand stuff, and then probably go out on Saturday. But try to take it a little easier. Action. Try to pump the brakes on all that craziness.
Smart man. Yeah, now's the time where you kind of hibernate. It is cuffing season.
Yeah.
If you're into that kind of thing.
When you don't have a cuff, it's just you and Netflix and chill by yourself. Hey, I should say, so we should mention this. We talked about the World Cup. Should we do something on the World Cup next week?
Yeah, we should. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah, it starts on the 20th, so it's our only time. We got to work in some World Cup next week.
Let me see if we reach out to Night Ranger. I'm not sure if he's available.
Sure.
He does weird hours sometimes, but good to get a guest on and get a couple extra people eyeballs on here. But anyway, we'll follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter and at Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
All right, good luck, everybody.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made, as the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.